Well, guys, in these slides, we are going to discuss how to determine the degree of hydrolysis of proteins in hydrolysates. Here, you would have heard the word hydrolysates. This word hydrolysates is very common among the boys who are the body builders. They will be using the protein supplements where these protein supplements will be manufactured, and those protein supplements is called to be as hydrolysates. Now here those will be produced by the process called as the hydrolysis. Now here this is what all about the topic, and here we are discussing the experiment and the method how to determine the degree, that is the how much the hydrolysis has been taken place in the proteins. Now further in these slides we are going to discuss almost all what has to be covered. So we will go to the next slide. In these slides we are discussing what are hydrolysates. These are the substances which are produced because of hydrolysis, where after hydrolysis they are called to be as the hydrolysates. These hydrolysates are mostly produced from enzymatic and or acid hydrolysis. These are the two common methods or the ways where these hydrolysates can be produced, and consists of many complex mixtures of free amino acids and peptides of different chain length. Now here you can see that because of hydrolysis, those proteins are going to be broken into amino acids and the peptide chains, smaller peptide chains compared to the complete length, that is the different chain lengths will be formed. These peptide chains again called to be as the biopeptides or the bioactive peptides. They are defined as the peptides that are going to have beneficial pharmacological properties which were found to be in the hydrolysates of protein. Those can be of activities like antioxidative activity, anti-hypertensive activity, anti-diabetic, and immunomodulating, where these are of different types of biopeptides which are derived within this particular hydrolysate food sources. Now here these biopeptides are nutritionally and functionally important for regulating some physiological functions in the body. Hence this being one of the still undergoing research. So here this much only the information can be given. But here it has been shown that the importance of that particular hydrolysates in their form of the peptides and the different chain lengths, which are again called to be the biopeptides or bioactive peptides, how they are going to be beneficial for the human health under the level of the pharmacological benefits or the nutritional or functionally important for the physiological functions. So here this has been separately mentioned. Protein hydrolysates has special applications in sport medicine. This is very well known because of these amino acids which are freely available, and also the short different chain lengths of the peptides which are freely present will be absorbed by the body more rapidly compared to the complete proteins which we are going to take. It is going to take part in some processes under our digestive system. When compared to that, this freely available amino acids or the broken chains of the proteins of different lengths are going to be absorbed very more rapidly, where it is going to lead to the less stress on our digestive system. So it is going to deliver to the muscle tissues at the rapid rate. Hydrolyzed vegetable proteins is produced by boiling foods such as soy, corn or wheat in hydrochloric acid. So here, as we have discussed, that it will be produced either by the enzymatic actions or the acid hydrolysis. Here it is seen that the hydrochloric acid is used to produce the hydrolyzed vegetable proteins. In commercial market, we see many varieties of protein hydrolysates. This is very well known point. Many bodybuilders and sporting individuals make use of this protein hydrolysates. So here, this is regarding the hydrolysates. Is brief introduction and its importance and how it is taking importance and progressing in the field of the pharmacology and also in the field of the nutritionally and functionally, that is in the diet of the individual. Coming to the next slide, under this we discuss about the hydrolysis of proteins. Hydrolysis is the chemical breakdown of the compound where proteins will be broken down, where you know that the proteins will be at the larger chain polymer kind of the lengthy form of the peptides, where they are going to have around minimum to the 200 to 300 number of the amino acid. Apart from that, these amino acid chain or the polypeptide chain, it is again going to be get restructured to their secondary form or tertiary form or quaternary form, and they are going to form their own form of the structures. So these has to be broken by introducing the water molecule, where the reaction with the water molecule has to be done. So during hydrolysis, what will happen? The water molecule will be introduced at the peptide bond linking the amino acid residues together in the protein. So here, when you are going to subject the protein for the hydrolysis, the amino acids will be released. During that time, what will happen? If you are going to consider a polypeptide, as for example, we have taken glycine, alanine, and glycine, where they have been interconnected with the peptide bond, where it will be broken with the help of the H and OH, where NH2 is going to convert to the A, that is the amine is going to convert to the amino group, and CO is going to form the COH. So here, this is how further this particular intact protein is going to be get separated as the amino acids. Now further, there are three general methods to hydrolyze protein into its composition, that is in the form of the amino acids. Those are acid hydrolysis, where the strong acid will be used, alkaline hydrolysis, where the strong base will be used, or enzymatic hydrolysis. These are the three methods which will be used to make the reaction with water. In the sense, whatever the hydrolysis will be taken into consideration, here they are going to subject the polypeptide with the water molecule, where water molecule will be introduced under these peptide bonds of the long chain proteins, and polypeptides will be broken into the amino acids. So further, in this slide, we will discuss how it is going to happen. So hydrolysis of proteins by strong acid and strong base will be seen here in this slide. Here, the amino acid units in the polypeptides are joined, that we know that it will be because of the peptide bond or amide link. So here you can see this will be the peptide bond CONH, that is the CO will be the of the previous amino acid, NH will be of the next amino acid, where this bond which will be present here, that is covalently present, will be maintaining the chain of that polymer or the polypeptide. So that will be broken by the acidified water in a strong acid hydrolysis reaction. Now here, when you are going to consider, while acid hydrolysis using HCl is the most common technique to hydrolyze proteins and peptides. So when you are going to consider these 2 points, I have used to give a small brief introduction about how it is going to happen between the peptide bond and the water molecule, and also to show that majorly used technique to create hydrolysates is the treatment of polypeptides or the proteins with the HCl. That is, the protein substrate treatment will be subjected with the strong HCl concentrations under certain procedures, and further they are going to prepare the hydrolysates of the amino acids and the broken lengths of the polypeptide. Further, you can see here the previous reaction itself has been depicted here for the need, but I hope you people have understood within the previous slides only. Now here we will discuss about the strong acid and strong base. Here I have took only a few phrases of the methods just to make you people to understand how it is going to happen. A strong acid is ordinarily the method of choice, and constant boiling hydrochloric acid at 6 molar is most frequently used and heated at 100 degrees centigrade for 6 hours and overnight. So here, because of this, what will happen? Whatever the subjected substrate of protein is going to get reacted with the HCl, and the released hydrogen molecule is going to react within that particular acidified water medium, and they are going to break the peptide bond. In the other form, that is the strong base, here is ordinarily the method. It is also the common method of choice where the NaOH or the KOH will be used, either of these, where 2 to 4 molar is most frequently used and heated at 100 degrees centigrade for 6 hours and overnight. So this is also the other method. Under these methods, what will happen? In the acidified form, there will be release of the hydrogen ions released by the acid and neutralizes the base in the peptide bond to NH3. So here, because of this, what will happen? This COH NH3, when it is going to connect NH3, the bond is going to break here. Now, when it is hydrolyzed with strong base, the OH ions released by the strong base will neutralize the peptide bond. That is the acid of the peptide bond, that is the COOH. Because of that, what will happen? The broke is going to happen within the peptide bond. In all the circumstances, what will happen? The role of the water will be there, both here and here, which is going to add across the peptide bond by breaking and giving the free amino acids. Now, when it comes to the free amino acids, we can understand that there is the role of the whole water molecule which donates H here, it will form NH3. Here it is going to donate OH. When it comes to the small length proteins, the broke will happen in the same manner only. There is no difference in the breaking of these particular polymers or the protein polypeptides. Now here, this is regarding the action of the strong acid, strong base, where formation of the carboxyl functional groups and amine functional groups is observed. Because of these actions, peptide bonds are qualitatively hydrolyzed to separate individual amino acids. Now here, high degree of the hydrolysis, huge number of the amino acids, free amino acids are going to form. Because of that, what will happen? We can say that the qualitatively, that is the major number of the free amino acids has been formed. When it compared to the hydrolysates, in the hydrolysates, it will be the mixture of the small peptide chains, free amino acids. So here, the free amino acids which are present will be to what the degree of the hydrolysis has been taken place. That is how the substrate protein has been subjected either to the acid or the base has been taken place. That has to be understood. That is what required. Behalf of that, we can say that the it is quantitatively hydrolyzed when it will be quantitatively analyzed or estimated. So here of course there will be free amino acids which can be quantitatively estimated or identified. Now further, in this slide we will discuss hydrolysis of proteins by enzymatic method. Now here this is very much related to our digestion, where human body involves the breaking of the protein polymer, where it is going to break down into its constituent amino acids, where it is going to use the enzyme. The enzyme is going to catalyze the hydrolysis reaction, where it is going to be because of the peptidase or proteases enzymes. So this process is going to take place in our stomach. Here what will happen in our stomach, the pH which will be around 1.5 to 2 or 2.5. Under this acidic pH, the enzymatic actions definitely they are going to give results, and because of this acidic pH, the breakdown of the proteins, long peptides or different structural peptides which we are going to consume in the form of the vegetables or by the form of the animal flesh or meat, they are going to be digested because of the acidic medium or acidic pH which is present in our stomach, and also because of the enzymes, peptidases or proteases which has been released into our stomach, where it is going to give the results of hydrolysis, that is the breaking down of the amino acids or the small length polypeptide chains or the proteins. Now here especially the classification of this particular peptidases or proteases will be on the pH, like acid group, neutral or basic proteases. Now here you know that pH will be acidic, neutral or alkaline, that is the basic. Under this particular classification, here there are two groups, that is the one group is here and the other group. This group of aspartic peptidases, glutamic peptidases or proteases, and metalloproteases or peptidases, they are going to activate the water molecule to get reacted and attack the peptide bond. Nucleophilic attack will take place, peptide bond, to hydrolyze it. Now here you see that these are the group of the peptidases. These are not single enzymes, these are the group formed because of the different enzymes of their action, where aspartic is a group, glutamic is other, and metallo is the other, where they are the one which are going to activate the water molecule under the acidic pH. So it is going to, here you can see aspartate, glutamate and metalloion, it is metallo. Enzyme, acid, acidic pH, the enzyme activates itself during the acidic pH and catalyzes and pushes the water. The water reacts within the polypeptide chain of the protein and it is going to break the chain. So the enzyme is going to get conserved and the product 1 and product 2 is going to be formed. Here it is the N-terminal, this will be the amino group, this is the small peptide N-terminus, that is the amine. Again here when you are going to consider, there will be the second group, serine, threonine and cysteine proteases. Within this group, one more is the group of arginine enzymes, where these use nucleophilic residue, that is the catalytic triad will be formed, where these three are going to form the triad, that is the conjunction like action, where performs the nucleophilic attack and covalently link the protease to the substrate protein, where releasing the first half of the product, where the covalent acyl enzyme intermediate is then hydrolyzed by activated water to complete catalysis by releasing the second half of the product and regenerating the free enzyme. Now here you would have understood that they are going to first form their triad like structure. Here you can see in this there was the single reaction. Here the two-step reaction where enzyme act on the substrate and further acyl enzyme intermediate will be formed here. Acyl enzyme here in the sense here the enzyme is going to break the bond between the amines, and further here it is going to introduce the water molecule where releasing one molecule of the oxygen. Here further it is going to create the two products, that is the product 1 and the product 2. Here it can the product 1 and product 2 can be both, can be the free amino acids, or one can be the free amino acid and the other can be the polypeptide chain. So all it depends on how the reaction is going to take place. Here as we have discussed that the first half of the product is going to be released where the covalent acyl enzyme intermediate is formed, is then hydrolyzed by the activated acyl. So this is regarding this particular pH based peptidases or proteases. So here these are the major groups of the peptidases or the proteases which take part in the breakdown of this particular polypeptide chains, and in this majorly many are the endoproteases. What is endoproteases? Endoproteases is nothing but enzyme where they are going to act within the polypeptide chain. They are not going to show their action on the terminal parts of the polypeptide. It's not on the first amino acid or the last amino acid. It will directly attack the in between the polypeptide chain. So because of that, what will happen, there will be the chances of the formation of the many small polypeptide chains within of that particular protein. So this is regarding this particular hydrolysis of the proteins enzymatic way. Now further is we discuss about an enzyme, that is the alkylase. This is the enzyme we use within this particular experiment, where this enzyme is called to be as the subtilisin, where it is a protease which is initially obtained by the Bacillus subtilis. It is the species. Subtilis is the species, Bacillus is the genus. Subtilisin is all commercially known as alkylase. Alkylase 0.6L, alkylase 2.5L, and again alkylase is the liquid enzyme where it is going to be a protease suitable for high temperature and the moderate pH. Moderate pH is the neutral pH, slightly acidic but it is neutral. The same alkylase enzymes has been used in the detergent products. So here this is going to help for the cleansing of the clothes and many other homely products. And also it is produced by the submerged fermentation method, where the genus will be Bacillus and the species will be the Licheniformis. Bacillus licheniformis. Here alkylase can also be produced by this particular species C1, and this alkylase is the endoprotease, where it belongs to the serine type of the protease or peptidases, where it is going to split peptides and polypeptides into smaller peptides by targeting peptide bonds near the center of the molecule. So here already I have spoken that what are endoproteases. They are going to target near the center of the molecule. Because of that, what will happen, even the protein being a very long chain, their action is going to put the protein into the many number of broken short polypeptides. It has a very broad substrate specificity. It can hydrolyze most peptide bonds within a protein molecule. So here broad substrate specificity, in the sense it is going to break down the substrate at any number of the points and the small peptides can be found. Peptides and amino acids are found which are either dissolved or dispersed, whatever the medium in which we are preparing. Under that, they can be dissolved and dispersed. So alkalis is having the pH of 6.5 and 8.5. I already spoken that a moderate pH as per this, that is the 6.5. If it is neutral, 8.5. Again, it functions between 45 and 65 degrees centigrade with maximum activity of about 60 degrees centigrade. So here 45 and 65 is the optimum temperatures which will be used, and above which the activity falls rapidly, in the sense the enzyme will not show its action of breaking the long polypeptide chains. So here's some foods like the potatoes and blood with the inhibitors are going to inhibit the alkalis activity. So here the appropriate action has to be taken, and the on the wool and the silk proteins, alkalis will be gentler, should be stored in the fridge at 3 to 5 degrees centigrade. So we should not freeze it, in the sense we are going to keep it at the low temperature but not at the freezing temperature. This enzyme is used to break the protein. In this slide, this particular chemical we are using for the quantification of the amino acid formed during the hydrolysis or the hydrolyzed preparation. Now here one more thing I want to tell, that TNBS is one of the trinitrobenzene sulfonic acid. This particular compound is highly sensitive, highly reactive and highly excited form of the compound when it comes into the reaction. So this has to be handled very carefully because it can explode. It can explode. I'm telling it can explode. So here this has to be managed very well when it is used. Now here we are discussing because it was the request of one of our YouTube channel viewer to put on the hydrolysis related video logs. Hence we have prepared these slides, and also we are giving the warning of to use at the minimal quantity with very well experienced hand to do this experiment. Now here trinitrobenzene sulfonic acid is used to quantify protein amino acids, where TNBS reacts with amino groups in their unprotonated state or dilute solutions of proteins. Unprotonated states is nothing but it is not deprotonated or protonated form. Unprotonated in the sense the normal form of the amino acid. So here are the amine group. TNBS binds to amino acids in 2 steps, that is a quick reaction with low affinity and slow reaction with the relatively high affinity. Here let it be any kind of the reaction. Both the steps will be considered in the practical purpose, where TNBS reacts with primary amine groups under slightly alkaline conditions and lowering the pH stops the reaction. So here at slight alkaline conditions, in the sense it can be up to 9. Further lowering of the pH is going to stop the reaction. So here during this, if the reaction of the TNBS is taking place within the hydrolyzed proteins, where the relative rates of the reaction of diamino acyl groups of protein differ depending on the substitution degree of the neighboring groups. Some of them do not react. In the sense here, if you are going to consider, here they have used word substitution degree of the neighboring groups. The protein always will not be linear in its structure. As per the tertiary and quaternary structures, these amino acids are going to get interlinked with the help of the sulfide bonds or the phosphate bonds. Because of this, what will happen? The substitution degree is going to be created. That is, the single amino acid can be get interacted to form the different structures, and because of that, what will happen? The chance of the reaction of the TNBS is not going to happen. The trinitrophenylation kinetics seems to be more dependent on protein structure than reactivity. Now here, as we have discussed here, when there is the reaction of the trinitrobenzene sulfonic acid, this is going to further give the product of the trinitrophenyl amines. Now here, trinitrophenylation kinetic is the active reaction happening between the TNBS and the amino acids. Now, as we have discussed that the substitution degree of the neighboring groups is going to avoid. The same thing has been discussed here, that the trinitrophenylation kinetic reaction is more dependent on protein structure than reactivity. If the protein structure is well and good and helping out to react, then the reaction is going to be easy. But here, if it is not giving any free amine or the free amino groups, then the reactivity is not going to happen. That is what the trinitrophenylation is going to depend on the protein structure, concentration of which is evaluated by molecular absorption spectroscopy. You know this thing. Trinitrobenzene sulfonic acid hydrate is going to react with amino acids, yielding a yellow product, where with the help of this yellow product we are going to do the absorption spectroscopy. So this will be the reaction in the simplest form. The maximal absorption of the final product, it will be at 340 nanometer of N-trinitrophenyl amines. So this is regarding the TNBS, which is required for this particular experiment. Further is the required materials, where we will be required the 1% SDS, volume by volume. It should be weight by volume, it's not volume by volume. 0.2 molar sodium phosphate buffer, that is at pH 8.2, 2.5 millimolar leucine standard in 1% SDS. So 0.1% weight per volume trinitrobenzene sulfonic acid dihydrate, where it will be taken in deionized water and it will be prepared. It has to be prepared immediately before to the experiment. In the sense, we should not store it and we should not use it. It should be a freshly prepared chemical. And further is 0.1 normal HCl, and there should be a shaking water bath of 50 degree to 75 degrees centigrade prepared readily. Spectrophotometer should be having a visible range of 340 nanometer. Definitely it will be having. So these are the required materials, and apart from this, you know what the other glasswares and other things has to be used appropriately. You can take those, no need to mention in these slides. So here further is Anson unit and enzyme unit. Anson unit is the older measure of the mentioning the enzyme activity. Enzyme unit is the international unit which has been formed. Here Anson unit is one where the amount of the enzyme that liberates 1 micromolar of TCA soluble choline positive amino acids. Now here, as we have already discussed the alkylase, if you are going to subject that alkylase within the protein substrate, within 1 minute it has to give 1 micromolar of the protein substrate. It has to be TCA soluble. So the protein has to be broken by the alkylase, and those alkylase proteins has to be TCA soluble. So here further is that it has to be with 1 minute at pH 7.5 and 37 degree centigrade using hemoglobin as a substrate. So this was the one of the standard when it was introduced. The same standard has been used here. That the same in the sense the little parameter has been changed. One is the denotation, that is the U or IU. You can use either IU or IU for its symbolizing. Here it was the M and so on. Okay, that here also they were using A or MA like this. Here they are using U or IU. When you are going to consider here 1 unit of enzyme activity or enzyme unit is nothing but micromolar per minute. Here when you consider micromolar in the sense 1 micromolar per minute is defined as the amount of the enzyme that catalyzes the conversion of the 1 micromolar of substrate per minute under the specified conditions of the assay method. Here what we have discussed is one of the standardized method. Here you can see this standardized conditions, that is of Folin positive amino acid within 1 minute of pH and 7.5 and 37 degrees centigrade using hemoglobin as a substrate. These are the standard conditions. Here specified conditions of the assay method. Whichever the assay you are using, that assay method is going to have its own specified conditions. According to that, there should be the release of the 1 micromolar of the substrate per minute for that particular enzyme. Here it is not so. Here it is very different with standard conditions. So here this is the little parameter difference, but the major part is 1 micromolar liberation of the solubility is the same under the both. So this is going to act as the major principle of understanding of this particular enzyme activity. So in the next slide we are going to prepare hydrolysis samples. Here we are going to determine the appropriate amounts of substrate and enzymes to use for the hydrolysis reactions. Under that we are going to take the substrate, protein substrate, which gives protein at 8% of the total reaction, and we are going to calculate the enzyme at a ratio of 0.012 and so on unit per gram protein. This particular enzyme concentration is going to act upon the protein, that is per gram. So here we have already seen. So here when you are going to consider substrate containing the 8% of the protein, if you are going to take 100 grams of the substrate, then it should have 8% of the protein. So here that particular presence of the protein in the substrate can be determined by using Geldof method, where it is having the determination calculation with the help of the determining the nitrogen concentration. As we know that amino acids are going to have nitrogen, that concentration will be used and then it will be multiplied by a factor of 6.25 n. Fn is the nitrogen factor, 6.25 n. That is going to give the amount of the protein present within that substrate. So here further is that, for example, if you are going to take 100 ml alkylase hydrolysis reaction, use substrate containing 8 grams proteins, and further under this 0.16 gram alkylase, 0.6 L or 0.04 grams alkylase, 2.4 L. That is the L in the sense the Anson unit per gram. This is also Anson unit per gram. So here if you are taking the enzyme can be taken either of 0.16 gram alkylase or you can take 0.04 gram alkylase. Now here further buffer to 100 ml, in the sense when you are going to take the preparation of the hydrolysis sample, the substrate has to be subjected in the buffer of 100 ml, and further the enzyme has to be added to it, and it has to be further led to the reaction. This is what the scenario has to be created, and further the mass of the enzyme is calculated by Me is equal to Mp into A by E, where Mp is the mass of protein in the substrate, A is the suggested enzyme activity in Anson units per gram. Now here you can see that the suggested enzyme activity unit, which has been already given here, 0.012 Anson unit per gram protein, where it has been considered here, where E is the actual enzyme activity specified by the manufacturer. Actual enzyme activity is of alkalis is 0.6 L and 2.4 L, correspond to 0.6 and 2.4 Anson unit per gram respectively. Enzyme activity and suggested enzyme activity are two different. The actual enzyme activity is the one of the maximum action which will be shown by the alkalis. Suggested is to break down the protein within the substrate. The required enzyme activity is this one. So here this is suggested enzyme activity in the Anson units per gram is 0.012 Anson unit per gram. Now here further these values will be subjected into this particular formula, and here Me is equal to 8 grams into, here you can see that suggested enzyme for A has been taken 0.012 Anson unit per gram divided by 0.6 Anson unit per gram. So it gives the value of 0.16 gram, which has been already shown here, for 0.6 L, or 0.04 grams for 2.4 L. In the sense, if you are going to subject 0.6 L under the formula, you get this particular weight. You have to take this particular weight of the alkalis to be used in the reaction, or if you are going to take 2.4 L or 2.4 Anson unit per gram enzyme activity, this particular 0.04 grams is sufficient. So as the enzyme activity decreases, the amount of the enzyme has to be increased. As the enzyme activity increases, the amount of the enzyme has to be decreased. So all these differences is because of the suggested amount of the enzyme activity is considered. So here this is what regarding this particular mass of enzyme has to be used during the hydrolysis. Now further in this slides, here in this slide we have discussed the what are the parameters which has to be considered during the preparation of the hydrolysis samples. So those preparation of the hydrolysis sample parameters we have understood, and we have taken the substrate in this form of the 8 gram proteins, and the required alkalis can be of 0.16 gram or 0.04 gram respective the 0.012 Anson unit per gram of the suggested enzyme activity, where further these two will be subjected with the buffer of 100 ml. Now here, before to starting the hydrolysis, here what we have to be very careful to manage the experiment is that first we have to prepare the controlled preparation. Controlled preparation will happen when we are going to mix the substrate with the appropriate buffer at the desired temperature and pH. Here we are not going to add the enzyme because we are taking the control, not the sample. So here we are not going to add the enzyme. Before to adding the enzyme, we are going to take 0.25 ml of sample which is already in the appropriate buffer at the desired temperature and pH, and they are going to transport to a glass test tube containing 2 ml of 1% SDS and incubate for 15 minutes at 75 degree centigrade. So because of this incubation, this unhydrolyzed control, you have to observe the word unhydrolyzed control, is going to have some free amino groups in the raw material, and it is going to act as the control where the evaluation can be done. So this is regarding this particular control preparation. And also remember, when you are going to add the protein substrate appropriate buffer, it is going to be in the desired temperature and pH. Because of this desired temperature and pH, certainly there can be the formation of the free amino acid, but not at the extent of the action of the enzyme. So because of the action of the enzyme, there can be the formation of the many free amino acids, but here it is not so going to happen. Now here, when you are going to consider further the blank preparation will be of 0.25 ml of 1% SDS in 2 ml sodium phosphate buffer. This is the blank and this will be the control. Further, after taking this particular control, the rest of the mixture of the substrate, buffer and at the desired temperature and pH will be added with the enzyme, and it will be stirred throughout the course of the reaction. Now here the reaction course can be of an hour, 2 hour, depending upon how finely the hydrolysis has to takes place. So according to that, the reaction time can take, and also the enzyme, which is going to be very specific to break the protein. Now here what will happen during this particular reaction time, course of the reaction, or the reaction time, or the reaction duration, in between at specific times we have to collect 0.25 ml of samples. For example, you can collect at 10 minutes as the reaction starts, in the sense as you add the enzyme and you start the stirring the mixture. After 10 minutes you can take 0.25 ml of the sample, and again after 10 minutes, again 10 minutes in the sense after 20 minutes of the starting of the reaction, after 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 50 minutes, 60 minutes, and so on. It all depends on you how many samples has to collect, but the minimum number of the samples required are of 6 number. So it is mandatory to collect 6 samples of different intervals of time during the course of reaction. So after taking each sample, immediately you have to transfer the each sample to a test tube containing 2 ml of 1% SDS and keep at 75 degrees centigrade in a shaking water bath for 15 minutes. This is going to inactivate the enzyme and disperse the protein hydrolysate. So here whatever the degree of hydrolysis has been taken place, in the sense the protein and the enzyme reaction, which has led to the breaking of the peptide bonds because of the enzyme, whatever the amount has been, amino acids has been liberated or peptide chains has been liberated, that is going to be dispersed by the within this particular protein hydrolysate. So here this is how the sample preparations will be taken place. Further, after collecting the samples and securing them, we are going to subject those samples for the quantification of the amino acids or the amino groups. where further we are going to subject those samples to the trinitrobenzene sulfonic acid reaction. So here the further protocol goes like this, where we are already having the 6 samples with us with a control, where the control will be of the samples which we have already collected, and the same control will be used for the standard series also. Here, as I have said, the samples has been collected of volumes 0.25, 0.25, 0.25, 0.25, 0.25, 0.25 ml, and at the time intervals of 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 minutes. Now this one you know already. When coming to the standard series, under this we are going to take the leucine as the one of the standard, and here we are going to prepare 2.5 millimolar concentration of the leucine. Under that we are going to prepare 0.25 ml of the each aliquot, which is going to have 0.25 milli equivalent per gram of leucine in one grade, and the second grade 0.50 milli equivalent per gram, in next 1 milli equivalent per gram, in next 1.5, in next 2 and 2.5. Like this you are going to prepare from 2.5 millimolar of leucine concentration, where you are going to further prepare it to the milli equivalent per gram in this particular series. So here the volumes are going to remains the same on both sample and here, but the measurement of the concentrations for the standard series will be in the milli equivalent per gram, prepared by diluting the 2.5 millimolar of this sample. And here for the sample it is not given, but the time of the collection of the hydrolysates has to be mentioned. So this is the two different columns of the sample and the standard amino acid has been considered. And further here to all of this we are going to add the sodium phosphate buffer. We are going to make all the test tube volumes to 2.25 ml. So here whatever the rest of the volumes has to be added is 2 ml to each of the test tubes. So here we are going to making up all the test tubes to 2.25 ml, and we are going to stir it very nicely. And further we are going to add 0.1% of TNBS of 2 ml to all of the test tubes, and further we are going to stir it very properly. So here we are going to further incubate them at 50 degrees centigrade for 60 minutes, that is for an hour. So we are going to incubate all the test tubes, both the standard and the sample, and further we are going to remove those from the incubation, and further we are going to stop the reaction by adding 4 ml of 0.1 hormone HCl. So because of this the reaction is going to stop, and further at the room temperature we are going to measure the absorbance of this particular completed reaction at 340 nanometer. Now further these are the absorbance results which we have got. So in the absorbance you have to use the controller without fail, and you know the blank how to prepare. And further we are going to subject these values in the graphs. So further we have to create a calibration curve, that is absorbance of 340 nanometer versus the concentration of the standards. Now further, before to that, let we have or observe the linear curve graph, where we are going to plot the graph, time and and the time against or versus the absorbance. Here I have plotted this because to understand the absorbance of both the standard series and the sample hydrolysate. In the standard series you can see that it is already defined amount of the amino acids present as in the milliequivalent per gram of leucine. But here you can see this is extracted according to the time, that is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 and 60. It is showing higher absorbance compared to the leucine curve. So in the sense, the amount of the liberated or hydrolysated amino acids or amino groups are more compared to the concentration of the leucine has been collected. So this is the reliable graph to understand the difference in the absorbance, but incorrect graph to estimate the amount of the free amino acids or the amino groups present within this particular hydrolysate. Further, we are going to go to the next slide. In this we are going to see the created calibration curve which has been created with the standard series absorbance. So here we have created this particular calibration curve. You can see linear regression or the trend line has been drawn and the linear regression equation has been generated, and these are the values, and you can see the correlation is 0.8553, which is quite lesser, or quite lesser to the 1. When you are going to consider here where y will be the absorbance, m will be the slope of the calibration curve, that is the correlation curve, and x is equal to degree of hydrolysis which has to be calculated, and b the y-intercept by calibration curve, the intercept created by the correlation curve. I called it to calibration curve, I called it to as the correlation curve also. So because it is going to be the important curve to give the parameters which has been generated and act it to be as the constant for the further calculation. Now here these discussions you can read on your own because many will be knowing this. Now further we have created the calibration curve only for the standard series, because here with the help of this we are going to determine the degree of hydrolysis. So as we know that the calibration curve is having both the concentration and the absorbance which has been generated because of that concentration, by keeping this particular parameters within this calibration curve or the linear regression equation, we are going to calculate or determine the degree of hydrolysis. Now here, before to the degree of hydrolysis, we have to determine the amount of the amino groups has been hydrolyzed. That has to be calculated, where we are going to subtract the value of the corresponding unhydrolyzed control of sample. So that already has been done here, that values has been taken and the calibration curve has been created. And again here this is for the samples. Here what we have done, it is for the standard curve. Here what we are doing is that we are going to take the absorbances of the hydrolyzed protein and the control value will be subtracted from the hydrolyzed protein absorbance value. These are the values which we have got. So those each value will be subjected in this particular equation of H is equal to A into B by M, where H is the hydrolysis or hydrolyzed amino acids, where A will be the absorbance of at 340 nanometer of the sample which we have collected, B is the y-intercept, and M is the slope of the calibration curve. This B and M we have collected from the standard series regression equation, this one. So that same has been mentioned here, and the B and the M is 0.1622 and B is 0.1156 has been taken. And now here what will happen, when we are going to subject these values has been given again this hydrolyzed amount of the protein. These are the values of H. When you are going to subject the absorbance, the M value and the B value has given this, and further after that we have to determine the degree of hydrolysis at each time point from the following equation. Now we have to subject the H in the equation, and H total in that sense the total number of the amino acids that we have to consider as 8 amino acid milli equivalent per gram. So this is the standard used when we don't know the total amino acids present within that particular protein. This will be the standard 8 amino acid milli equivalent per gram protein has to be used. Now when you're going to subject this, the value is going to be the 1.49 and decimals 1.8, 2.36, and like this we are going to get the different values. And further, this is the degree of hydrolysis which has been obtained from the samples at different interval of the course of reaction which we have considered at 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 minutes. Here we can end the degree of hydrolysis calculation, but further we have reduced the decimals and considered the 2 decimals after within the value. Here we have taken this particular decimals, degree of hydrolysis, as the degree or the percentage of the hydrolysis taken place, and further this has been multiplied respectively with the leucine milli equivalent per gram, because this considered to be as the degree of hydrolysis, that is because as the percentage of the hydrolysis to the total protein present in the sample. Now here when you are going to consider this has been multiplied with the value of amino acid has been taken to correspond as the milli equivalent per gram. So here further we have got this particular values. These particular values are the actual, in my opinion, are the actual amino acid amount of milli equivalent per gram respective to the sample has got hydrolyzed. So at this different times the degree of hydrolysis shown 0.375 milli equivalent per gram of the amino acid hydrolyzed. In the 20 minutes it's shown 0.916, 2.360, 4.37, 6.027, 8.453. So this is how the degree of hydrolysis has to be determined. So here this has been taken from the one of the well-known article, and we have considered four articles to explain this, but we tried to give more information. So here whatever we have are available to us has been considered, and we have made these particular slides. I hope these slides are going to give you guys satisfaction, and I hope I have given much information. I tried to give more information, but somewhere even I feel that the information is not more enough to do justification. But if you guys feel it is the sufficient information, please type in the comment box. Else, please advise us to what else has been missed in this, and if the things has not been spoken or swallowed or forgotten, or somewhere the mistake has been done, please mention in the comment box so that we can come with the new slides by rectifying those mistakes. And hope I have done well in this determining degree of hydrolysis of proteins in hydrolysates by TNPS method. So this is what the end of this particular slides, and I hope you people will share these particular slides with your friends and the colleagues and the classmates. Thank you for watching these slides on Learner's Big Book.